We sailed out of the Arafura Sea, through the Timor Sea and into the Cebu Sea. Soon we'd be in the Flores Sea and then the Banda Sea, home of the Banda, or Spice Islands, a cluster of 11 lush islands in eastern Indonesia. In the early days of sail exploration, these seas were known by Arabic traders as the Seven Seas, those enchanting waters on the other side of the world where spice was in the wind. To sail them meant you had sailed as far from staid, grey Europe as you could. According to the old sea charts, you'd reached the mystical land of dragons. We sailed to a place where history meets legend. For the record, there are more than 7 seas, it's more like 100. But these waters did feel different. It wasn't just the clover-scented breeze, the long, slow swells, or the high-bowed fishing boats that swooped close to look at us. We'd sailed to a place where history meets legend, a place where traditional ships still sail past live volcanoes, to a forgotten island that once changed the world. From our vantage at anchor, we watched colorful sailing canoes glide by on the water as competing calls of 3 muezzin summoned people to prayer in the mosques on shore. 2 fishermen paddled up in a small wooden dugout and said good morning while handing us bananas. After the niceties, what are our names, where are we from, where have we been and where are we going, their eyes turned to our boat's details. My husband Evan did his best to explain how our 12 meters catamaran was built and what materials we used. But most of their answers were found by studying the shape of the hull. You may also be interested in the island that forever changed sides, the town that split the world in two. Is this famous US accent dying? Perhaps it's similar to the way an architect or builder approaches a new building, looking for details that explain how people adapt structures to a location's weather, landscape and culture. Sailors and fishermen build our vessels to suit a place, and we have a language all our own. In Indonesia, where the ocean has long been the highway between the more than 17,000 islands, boats offer a myriad of clues about the seas and the people. The dugouts are obvious, they're limited by the size of trees and never travel far from home. Long, narrow-hulled fishing boats are perfect for launching from a beach, and cut through the swell nicely. But it's the big schooners, called finisi in Indonesian, that tell the most intriguing story. Like most of the boats we'd seen, much of the construction is traditional hand-carved beams, wooden dowels instead of nails, and seams caulked with cotton. But the twist is that these two-masted ships borrowed both design details, originally part cargo ship, part warship, and the source of their name from Dutch pinnaces, vessels that first found their way to the Banda Sea in the spring of 1599. The Dutch, along with the Portuguese, English and Spanish, had been in a ferocious race to find the elusive Spice Islands and gain control of the spice trade. There were fortunes to be made in cloves and nutmeg, and everyone was eager to knock out the middleman, the Asian and Arab traders who kept the island's location a secret. When the Dutch finally found the islands, they protected their investment by forming the Dutch East India Company (VOC), with a horrific brutality that included slaying much of the local Bandanese population. They gained control of the plantations of evergreen nutmeg trees. The spice they produced not only flavored food but was thought to cure illness, including the bubonic plague. Head to Run Island from 11 October 11 November 2017 to celebrate its exchange with Manhattan Island. The Banda Festival marks the 350th anniversary of the Breeder Treaty and the trade that changed the world. The festival will feature cultural performances as well as a spice and culinary festival, traditional music events, puppet theater performances and an ancient map exhibition. Rumor has it that the mayor of New York, Bill de Blasio, will even make an appearance. At the time, nutmeg only grew in the Banda Islands. A combination of the region's isolation and the finicky nature of the nutmeg tree kept the price astronomical. Nutmeg will only grow in specific conditions: fertile, well-drained soil in a tropical climate that gets lots of rain. Even then, the trees only fruit after 7 to 9 years, and the labor-intensive process of harvesting requires workers to hand-pick each fruit and remove the outer covering, before carefully peeling off the mesa delicate, saffron-colored spice, drying the seed and cracking off the hard shell. With the local population subdued and enslaved as workers, the VOC monopoly of the spice trade was now hampered by just one thing. In 1616, the English had managed to gain control of a Banda island called Run, a speck of island less than 2 miles long and just more than half a mile wide. It was here the English claimed their first colony and formed the English East India Company, and in doing so launched the British Empire. The English East India Company was only able to defend Run against the Dutch for 4 years, but they didn't give up their claim. In 1664, in retaliation, 4 English frigates were sent across the Atlantic Ocean to seize a Dutch holding called New Amsterdam. The seat of the colonial Dutch government at southern tip of Manhattan Island had a population of 2,000 people, but they quickly capitulated. In 1677, the two countries came to an agreement. Both had refused to give up their claims on each other's islands, so they made a trade. The Dutch gained control of Run and the English got New Amsterdam, a new colony they renamed New York. These days, the Bandanese have regained control of their 11 islands and their nutmeg. Not many signs of the Dutch or English remain, other than the ruins from the VOC's forts, the architectural style of the homes and the shape of the finny schooners that carry liveaboard divers around the islands. Ships like these were once Indonesia's main form of transportation, carrying spices and cargo. Later they gained notoriety when the crews turned to piracy, using their skills to plunder European ships. These days, many of the traditional finnies are outfitted with comfortable cabins and offer multi-day voyages throughout Indonesia. We came across our first finny schooner when it sailed into our isolated bay off Vlore Island. Anchored beside us, it looked like it had traveled out of the region's turbulent past, except for the passengers gearing up for a dive. Not long after the schooner's guests dove into the water, we followed. Swimming along a steep drop-off, I admired the color and diversity of the hard coral. Then a school of jacks caught my eye. Soon I was enthralled, in turn, by her turtle, Napoleon wrasse and a black-tipped shark. I spent a while staring down a lobster before coming across the kind of traditional bamboo fish trap that would have been out of place in an archaeological museum. When we surfaced to a view of fishermen in dugout canoes bobbing alongside the ancient-looking schooner, I thought it was a boat that had sailed through time. That evening, as I watched the schooner bobbing in the swell at the base of a jungle-covered volcano, I wondered briefly what the world would have looked like if the English hadn't traded Run for New York. But as the stars grew impossibly bright in the sky, I realized that perhaps it didn't matter. In that moment, the world was as it should be. Join over 3 million BBC travel fans by liking us on Facebook, or follow us on Twitter and Instagram. If you like this story, sign up for the weekly BBC.com features newsletter called If You Only Read 6 Things This Week. A hand-picked selection of stories from BBC Future, Earth, Culture, Capital and Travel, delivered to your inbox every Friday.